Hello and welcome to another video on our YouTube channel. This video will be the first episode of our bi-weekly YouTube series called Talking Technicals. In this video I'll be covering what has happened in the previous week, which was non-farm payroll week, so it was a pretty big week last week, and also I'll be covering what's going to potentially happen next week in the market on the chosen currency pairs that I focus on. So firstly, I'd like to start with the dollar against the yen and what happened from the whole of last week. Last week we saw a major continuation in the bullish trend that the dollar against the yen has been forming since about mid-June. We've seen about 3 positive weeks of bullish price action and a lot of momentum, and NFP I think has been the catalyst for us to potentially see 115. But I will cover that later on in the video when I get onto some chart work. I personally went long on the dollar yen on Monday the 3rd of July after I published my analysis on the 1st, and if you don't see that on TradingView, check me out, and the name is AlexHillFX with no spaces. I've clearly labelled on my TradingView chart why I chose to go long on the dollar yen, and there was a great risk reward, and I actually picked up about 140 pips before I closed out Thursday ahead of NFP, and obviously I battled with the FMOC on Wednesday evening as well, which could have potentially triggered a bit of a pullback. For me personally, I saw the NFP as a potential catalyst to catapult us up to 115. Unfortunately, we only saw 114 this week before NFP, and I did have to close out for about 140 pips, but again, 140 pips isn't anything to be sniffed at, and I was very happy with the technical analysis that had helped me produce those pips. Now I will dive into the before and after chart work of the dollar against the yen and why I chose to go long, and this will be on my TradingView, and it's the published idea before and then what happened after, so I'll put that clip in now. So as I said in the last clip, you will see me now doing the before versus after of the dollar against the yen and the idea that I published on TradingView. As you can see here, I've labelled points 1 through to 6 of my thoughts and the different confluences I had behind the dollar yen going potentially long with an upside target of 115. As I spoke about we talked about the bullish overall bias changing after the respected level at 108,800 since the middle of June, and we've seen some major 3 weeks of upside. In point 2, it just reconfirms that by saying that the bias has probably changed because the bears look like they've lost control because they couldn't push the price any lower than 108,800. I was also confident on the dollar yen going towards a target of 115 due to the fact that I took 100 pips last week because of the consolidation break that I've highlighted just here where my cursor is. So as you can see, I had multiple potential confluences that gave me the idea, and of course confidence comes with multiple confluences, that we should see 115 this week. So this of course is the before, and now let me just quickly load the after. As you can see, we've seen a breakout above the next potential lower high, which is here, and we've seen no real drawdown. So I entered this trade on the Monday and I saw no drawdown. So I moved my stop loss to break evens very quickly, and I saw no kind of pushback from the dollar yen. We've just seen major upside, and we did see 114.175 because I gave a first take profit of 114.200, and we got very close, but obviously no cigar. I know a lot of people that have followed this idea did actually close this out because I posted this on my Instagram as well as Snapchat and Facebook, so that's some healthy pips for anybody that did follow this trade. So there was just the before and after idea of the dollar yen, and I'm still confident that we should see 115, so that is my thoughts for this week. You've heard it here first. Of course, take it with a pinch of salt and make sure you do your analysis as well. So as you can see, I went long on the dollar yen, and 115 is my overall target, but I do believe we should see it this week if we continue the bullish momentum that we've had over the past 3 weeks. For me, the technicals and the fundamentals did sort of align last week, and as I say, I think NFP is the catalyst to help us see 115. As a lot of people know, or you may not know, that I often just use gold as my confluence when I trade the dollar yen, and gold I will talk about shortly, because I talked about gold on Instagram Live on Monday and where I saw gold heading pre-NFP, and I was very correct in that. Of course, gold features the US dollar as part of the pair, which is why it's XAU-USD. So there is a direct correlation in the dollar pairs and obviously gold. So with that in mind, I saw gold as another confluence to see the dollar yen rising towards the 115 target, and I think actually that will help us again this week, so I think gold will probably be down to about $1,200 per ounce. This week I did only trade the dollar yen, and I traded the London Opens, and I did trade Asian Open once, but I was very focused on scalping this week because it's something that I'm getting my head into rather than the longer term swing trade. But of course I did place a swing trade and gain 140 pips, like I say, on the dollar yen. This week I was very conservative because I could see that the dollar pairs would likely consolidate ahead of all the uncertainty to do with non-farm payroll. As I've mentioned, that the markets were consolidating a lot due to the uncertainty of non-farm payroll. As a lot of people know, but if you don't know, the markets are in consolidation for 70% of the time that they're open, are only actually trending for the remaining 30%. So consolidation happens, and it's nothing to be scared of. It is just something that happens within the markets, and you have to allow for that. So ahead of non-farm payroll, I was looking at the US dollar against Canadian dollar, and I was potentially going to go short on this on Friday depending on the news, and unfortunately I decided to call it a week on Thursday evening, so I didn't enter any positions on Friday, which was of course a shame because the dollar against the CAD absolutely flew down probably 100 or so pips, or potentially more. But I'll get into the technicals behind that and why that actually did happen. So I can get into the technicals of the dollar CAD shortly and why that actually did happen post NFP, and I think now we will see some major downside like we already have for the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Since about January 2016 it's been absolutely free falling. Now I will quickly run over my thoughts on dollar against the Canadian dollar, and I'll show you on screen next some technical analysis with a voiceover on myself, just going through my thoughts on what's going to happen in the week ahead. So in this clip I'm going to be describing my thoughts for the week ahead on the dollar against the Canadian dollar. Briefly in the last clip I did speak about the USD CAD being on a major bearish trend since 2016 January, and this is what I was talking of. This is where we started descending from, and we've seen a significant market low there, which is a couple of thousand pips, and I think we are actually going to revisit this. If we look left, which I tell people to do all of the time to look for potential price action that can be revisited, I think we should see this significant market low be reformed. And let me just break that into a smaller time frame, so let's just jump down to the 4 hour quickly. So now on the 4 hour time frame we see that there has been major bearish movement, and we've actually broken out of the downside channel that I've drawn of lower lows and lower highs. As you can see, the two moving averages that I've got drawn, we can see that there's still a fair amount of gap, and it doesn't look like we're going to be crossing to change momentum anytime soon. For me personally, if we look at the last three candles, which was obviously Friday, we saw major downside, but we saw a lot of momentum, so the bears are still firmly in control of this pair. The next level that we should look as a level of support is going to be this level here, which is a monthly level of 1.28 100, because we'll just round up the sort of 10 or 12 micros. So keeping that level in mind, that's still 60 pips from where we are at the moment, and I think that is a zone that we will test, and if we can't sustain a close below this, I think we could see a potential time for some reversal in the dollar CAD. So for me, there is two scenarios this week on the USD CAD. I think we are going to come down. I think we should test this monthly level of support, which, as I say, is 1.28 100. So that is 67 pips from the current price. Of course, non-farm payroll week often throws a decent market gap when we open again on Sunday, so just keep that in mind. Don't enter positions on Sunday nights because you've got a battle with the Asian Open, and then you've got a battle with London the next day, and often the markets don't really start going until sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and those are the days that I trade mainly. So for me, what I'm looking out for is a retest of this monthly support, and then we could potentially see a reversal towards upside if we reject that, and we might see the pullback from the support, so you may be able to gain some pips in that fashion. The reason I'm suggesting this further 60 pips of downside is just because you should be following the trend and not trying to fight against the trend, because people talk about the trend being the friend, which is a perfectly fine saying to remember. It's quick and easy. The reason I don't want to fight against the trend is we've been majorly bearish for over a year, so why would we want to fight against such a strong trend? So that is my thoughts for the USD CAD. I'm thinking at least another 65 pips of downside to test the monthly support. If we break the monthly support, we should see some major downside to back to that significant market low that I showed you on the daily time frame. So that's my thoughts, and let's wrap up the video. I hope that you enjoyed this video and our first episode of Talking Technicals. I hope it was helpful and has given you some insight into our thoughts for next week and what could potentially happen in the markets. Please remember, this is just our personal opinions and it's not gospel, so please do your own analysis and don't enter any live trading positions unless you've analysed it properly yourself as well. We hope that you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching and taking the time out of your day. That's everything from me, and see you on the next episode.